Y'all, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm very excited. I have a guy that I just found out I could be his fucking mother. I am that young. I am that old, and he is that young. But the way I found James is my husband has been a huge fan of James' account, the School of Hard Knockz with a Z at the end, for a really long time. And I reached out to you and your team, and I appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely. Very happy to be here. Thanks for
Yeah.
reaching out.
Oh my God, of course. This is so fun. So, if you guys have not checked out the Instagram account yet, the School of Hard Knocks, I would highly recommend go checking it out because it's everything that I kind of have preached about for such a long time. And James has done a fantastic job. You were just telling me that you guys have over 1.4 million different viewers in all of your platforms, Instagram, YouTube, all of the things.
Yeah. So across, I think, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, we have 1.4 million followers.
Oh my God, that's so sick. So I want to take it back to the beginning. So I don't know anything about you, but been following along, and I would love to know how in the hell did this start for you guys, for you and your brother, and you have a partner as well, right?
Our third partner is Josh. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So take me
Yeah.
back. How did this start?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll kind of go way back to like my childhood and kind of like how we got to
Yeah,
where we are now. So
please.
kind of grew up, I was born in like the Washington, D.C. Area. I was born in Virginia and actually ended up from 6 to 10. I spent my childhood. I lived in South Korea. My dad was stationed overseas. He was the garrison commander. So he was in charge of the largest overseas military base in the world at Camp Humphreys in South Korea. And so after 6 to 10, ended up spending 10 to 18 back in the DC area. My dad was at the Pentagon, got out, kind of went the typical contracting government defense route. And, through that process, my brother and I, funny enough, we met our third partner when we lived in the DC area. At the time, we had no idea that we were ever going to work together or do anything like this, but we were all in the same Boy Scout troop. So we all became Eagle Scouts together, but we all eagled out at different timelines. So our partner Josh, who's 24, my brother Jack's 22, and I'm 20. When Josh, he had kind of graduated high school, went off to college, and ended up dropping out to pursue a digital marketing agency. My brother had moved out to Austin to go to the University of Texas, and I followed him 2 years after. So that's kind of how I ended up in Austin, and now we're all in Austin. But I know that this is kind of like all over the place. But to kind of get back to the core, like how Hard Knocks started, is so there's two really ultimate factors. So we were very blessed and fortunate growing up to have a lot of great mentors around us. As I said, my dad had a very successful career in the military. He had from uncles to scoutmasters to baseball coaches. We always had a lot of great mentors, but our peers didn't necessarily have that. So we figured that a big reason kind of why Hard Knocks came about was because we wanted to kind of help serve as kind of like a mentors at scale to where we firmly believe that like everybody has their own perspective and there's some form of value that can be derived from any person. Even if they may not be a super crazy entrepreneur, like everybody really does have perspective that somebody can learn from it some way. But ultimately, when I had moved out to Austin around 2020, so this is my freshman year. This is like before Hard Knocks. So this is like 2 or 3 years ago. I had gotten really heavily into content creation. So I had grew my personal TikTok, not Hard Knocks, just personal content where it would kind of be motivational, self-improvement, maybe a little boxing and fitness content here and there. I'd grown it to about 1 million followers. And as I said, my friend Josh was running a digital marketing agency, and my brother, who was working for a big company in Austin, ended up leaving that company to kind of pursue and do his own thing. So he started consulting, and he was getting clients in a bunch of different states. So we were all individually doing our own things, like entrepreneurially. I was content, my brother was kind of consulting, software automation, and our other partner Josh was doing digital marketing. And prior to permanently, I guess, moving out to Austin, we had reconnected one time at a friend's house. And the one thing to really note about like the Washington, D.C. area is that it's a very strict and structured city, right? It's very centered around, when you think of DC, you think of government jobs, you think of politics, you think of contract and defense. You don't think, it's not very entrepreneurial, it's not very collaborative. So when you find those people in that area that are, it's like, you kind of want to stick around. And so when we had connected with Josh years later, after not, really seeing him since Scouts, he kind of had pitched us the idea of potentially doing something together. So Jack and I permanently moved out to Austin, was going there for school, was still doing content, got on a couple calls, and eventually we created a channel that was called the School of Hard Knockz. At the very beginning of it, it was just Jack, Josh, and I that were making the content ourselves. talking about, business stories or stuff that, that has helped us through our own journeys. And we grew to about 25,000 followers. But we quickly realized that most people do not give a shit about hearing, young 20-year-old kids talk about business. We had a long ways to go in our careers and our journey as entrepreneurs before, like, we were just going to be able to just create a massive audience and following around it. But we're like, hey, we know how to deliver the content. We understand the algorithms. Like, we know how to go viral, and we love to network and connect with people. So, like, what if we can really, start out in Austin, but eventually go all over, connecting with some of the biggest business owners or entrepreneurs, and just really, have conversations and deliver their value to help younger people. And so, as I said before, the root of it was the kind of all our peers not having those great mentors of people in their lives. So we wanted to help service like the mentors at scale. But we also had a lot of discrepancies the way financial literacy was kind of taught throughout school, beginning from high school and all the way through college. There's just a big lack of it. They don't talk or teach the difference between owning and renting a home, or the importance of maintaining good credit, how to find a good job in the real world. Like, a lot of that stuff, it's missing, and kids need that. And so if you look at how kids are really consuming information in today's world, it's through short form content. It's those quick dopamine hits, but there's so much crap that's on social media. So we're like, hey, what if we can kind of bridge the gap, help provide value, help educate, and just kind of really be like an informative channel to, really help people out. And so I know that was kind of all over the place. It wasn't super like structured, but that's kind of like how it ultimately came about.
Oh my gosh, that's absolutely brilliant. First of all, your parents must be phenomenal because you speak extremely well. You know how to communicate really well. Obviously, that's part of what you do. There's just
Thank
so
you.
many questions I have, but are you still actually in school?
I am actually, yeah.
You are.
Well, and the only reason being is, and that's the thing, is like, I'm a firm believer that we are in a very skill set based economy. A skill set, I think, is way more important than education. And I've gotten way more outside of school than actually going to school. But at the time that Hard Knocks really like had taken off and we really started to like do well, I'm now like, I've got one semester left after this one, and I've been able to kind of automate and have all my classes like be remote, which has been nice. So, if I were, just starting out in college, I probably wouldn't do it now. But just because it's like I got one semester left and I had a pretty good deal to come down to UT, I was just like, you might as well just get it done.
Yeah, just get the piece of paper for sure. I was actually watching one of your videos where the guy's like, yeah, I just got the piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, I got the piece of
Yeah,
paper too. Like, my husband got the piece of
yeah,
paper too, but really at the end of the day, neither one of us are doing that. I actually totally agree with what you said in regards to, like, they're not teaching kids anything in schools in regards
yeah,
to like real life situations. I
yeah.
was even asked, so I know you don't know me, but I was a professional golfer for ages. And then before I got into this, and I literally have been asked to come out and help kids, I say kids, people your age, communicate, even just carrying on a conversation. I mean, most people your age, and maybe that's too much of a generalization, but there's a lot of people in your age demographic that don't even know how to like communicate. I used to call myself a human connection expert on the golf course, because really at the end of the day, if you can communicate with someone, doesn't matter if they're worth $1 or $1 billion. I mean, you really have an upper hand, and obviously you have that skill set. I think in the pandemic, if parents would have kept their kids at home, taught them like real life skills, like financial skills, communication skills, how to like run a home, I mean, our kids would be in such a better place, I think.
I completely agree.
Yes, it's so crazy. So nowadays, so when did the channel really start taking off?
So I would say, I want to say probably around, it was like late summer 2021. Late summer
Okay.
2021 is when we really kind of transitioned to doing more of kind of like the interviews with other people. We started out really just going around downtown Austin and just finding people off the street, just asking them, hey, like, if you want to talk to me, kind of like what industry you're in, what advice you have for the younger generation. And then eventually, as we really started to get traction and grow, then it turned more into, because we were, becoming a lot more like credible and our following was getting a lot bigger, we would have people from, real estate brokerages or tech startups or just all these different types of companies that would reach out to us and be like, hey, we really think you should interview our CEO. We want to set something up where you could come in, or you guys could go do something on the street or something like that. And so it kind of, the way we kind of get people for interviews, it really just depends. We'll go to big events and conferences and snag interviews there. We still love kind of like the street style of just, like, I don't know if you've seen some of our videos where, we'll just like walk up to
Oh,
people
I've seen a ton of your videos.
and and
Absolutely. I love
and
the
and
content.
and that's the thing, is like we won't even like ask people like, hey, can we, can you be in a video? Some of them it depends on the person, and maybe like they're having a conversation or doing something. It's like then we'll go up and ask them if they want to do an interview. But a lot of them, like you'll see, we'll literally just walk up to people, record, and it'll turn into like a 20-minute interview. And we won't even ask them in advance. And, start off with one question, turn into 5, 10, 15. And so it's really neat.
Is that how it organically started? You literally were just walking around in Austin and you just looked at people and be like, oh, they look successful, or they have, they have a nice watch or driving a nice car or something?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, some people just have that look, and you just, kind of want to go out, and see, because that's the thing is we kind of had the back of our minds when we were originally doing the content ourselves, that we had thought about kind of like doing like an interview style video. We've never really had an issue with kind of like approaching people, or just, starting, conversations and stuff like that. And so we would literally just go up to people downtown Austin and just be like, hey, we, started a media channel. Wanted to know if we could ask you a couple questions on kind of the advice that you tell the younger generation. And eventually, like as I said, as it kind of grew bigger, then there would be a lot more people would reach out to us, or we would kind of be outbound and reach out to other people. But yeah, that's how it worked. I mean, we really, so we did an interview with Mark Cuban
I
last.
saw that. Was that organic, or was that like set up?
No, so he was literally, so he was down here for South by Southwest this past year. And he had just finished up he was on like a panel. He was speaking right out front, talking to somebody. And my brother and I literally just walked up to him and said, hey, we love what you do. Is it cool if we kind of just do an interview with you? And he was super receptive, down to it, and ended up having like a cool conversation with him. And, it was honestly like a super nice guy. I know that, politically he's kind of, I'm not the biggest fan of him necessarily, but, honestly though, he is like a solid entrepreneur, obviously very renowned. And honestly, it was great to kind of be able to talk to him.
That's so cool. One of my first interviews on this podcast, you may know him. His name is Omar Elatar. Do you follow Omar?
Okay. It sounds really familiar.
You should really look at him. He's a huge content creator now, and he's got a podcast. And he was broke as a joke, and he talked about having to borrow the money for gas to get outside Mastro's in California. He knew, I think it was either Grant Cardone or Ed Milet was going to be at Mastro's, and he knew, like, he kind of had an insider information that person was going to be there, and he waited outside the restaurant to get his very first interview. And now he has a massive platform, and his podcast is The Passionate Few, and he makes a fortune off of interviewing like billionaires and millionaires and things like that. But it was very similar to what you talked about. You just had the guts to ask. This podcast is everything I talk about is decision, faith, and action, and making a decision to do something. And I know one of the main reasons why I wanted to reach out to you is because so many people, especially young people, say they want to do what you're doing, but they never take the action to actually fucking do it.
Right.
Like they just don't do it. Like you guys have actually done the damn thing, which is so damn cool. So now do you guys actually, I'd love to know if you don't mind me asking. So now do you guys monetize the interviews that are coming in? Like, do people pay to be on your platform now?
A little bit, yeah. So,
Yeah.
We had gotten pretty fortunate to get into some pretty cool like monetization programs on some of the platforms. So, Facebook, TikTok isn't the best monetization, but and then Instagram. So we've been able to kind of monetize on all the platforms, and a big part of it's kind of been like brand deals. So like, we'll have like software companies or various apps and stuff like that, and they'll reach out to us, and we'll kind of like promote their company or their software as long as it kind of aligns. And we kind of like try to vet them a little bit, make sure it's not like a super like scammy thing. And so brand deals and like ad revenues have really been able to like monetize, like go full time with this. There are a lot of kind of like plans like in the works, like very soon. Like we definitely kind of want to come out with some sort of like luxury like apparel that we think would be really cool for entrepreneurs, and also some kind of like longer term plays as well. I think the ultimate goal with Hard Knockz is that we really want to eventually become like the Barstool Sports of business content. So we've been having these conversations a lot. Is what a lot of people get wrong about. So Barstool Sports, they're not a media company; they're a media ownership company, right? And so that's kind of like our thing. It's like we have our main channel, we love it. Our goal is to, how can we get from 1.4 million to eventually 3 to 5 to 10 million followers, and so scale that channel, but then eventually bring other talent and other people in and other concepts, because there really is like a big lack of business content that's out there, in the sense that I think the most viewed like television business show only does like 1 million viewers, which is like nothing for like cable television. Granted, everybody's transitioning off of cable television, everything's going on demand, but even that in itself, it just kind of shows that there's a lack of it. And so it's like, that's where there's like a huge opportunity here that we can kind of, especially on like social media, kind of like help bridge that gap.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, Dave Pomeroy is like one of the biggest people ever. Like, I mean, and even, do you guys know, I'm assuming you know, like the Full Send podcast guys?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, like what they've done is absolutely incredible as well. I followed Bob Menery way back in the day because he started doing the golf stuff. So I knew him from like the golf world. But yeah, those boys have blown up as well. And now they have so many different products and all the things. I'd love to know, like, especially for your demographic, like is that who you guys market to? Like, is that your main demographic, like 30 year olds type of thing?
So yeah, so it's funny because when we had originally like launched Hard Knocks, the goal was to target primarily just like kids who were in like high school. So
Oh,
we wanted to
really?
try to get that demographic of kids that were kind of like going into college because a lot of kids that are in high school, there's a heavy influence on them from maybe their families that are like, hey, like you're gonna go the typical route of go to school, get a job, start a family, pay bills, and then you die. That's kind of like the cycle, right? And so a lot of people go through that route, but they don't know that there's a lot of other options that you could take. Some people have no passion for various aspects of school or wanting to, maybe they want to go into trades or maybe they don't necessarily know exactly what they want to do. So we wanted to kind of connect with people in a whole bunch of different industries to maybe help people find like a piece of advice or some sort of like guidance that may be able to like help them. So the original goal was set out to target like high school people, but then quickly realized as we really started to grow and scale and see our kind of audience demographics on the different platforms, it's really those people who are kind of, I want to say, mid to late 20s and into their 30s, because it's almost that age range of like people are okay, what the fuck? I'm in the real world. Like, um, 1 second. Um, it's the demographic people who are like, I'm in the real world. Like, what do I do? Like, I fucked around in college. Now I'm here. Like, I need to kind of like figure out the plan and like what to do. And so that's kind of like where like they found our content and kind of like really help them and see people with different perspectives and maybe a couple steps ahead of them and it can give them some kind of like an influence on them to kind of help them get there.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And you know what? You're bang on because I've worked with people, for years, 5.5 years now as the coach. And it's so interesting because my demographic that really kind of has that like aha, like rock bottom moment is like 25 to 29 years of age. Like that is the like holy shit moment. But I feel like between 20 and 30, I was actually doing a podcast just a couple weeks ago with the number one horse trainer in the world. I know it's kind of random, but he always said between 20 and 30, if you can just do anything and everything to learn every lesson and work your fucking ass off between 20 and 30, that is the years where really you have unlimited energy. You have like really no responsibilities. I'm assuming none of you guys are like married or have kids or anything like that. Yeah, exactly. You're totally free.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is it's so common. Like when we're talking to a lot of these people, one of the most common pieces of advice that we'll hear is it's like people wish that they would have taken more risk when they were younger, before they had all those responsibilities and obligations. Because once you, like you said, you're obligated to, you have a family that you have to provide for and all these different things. Now it's a lot harder to kind of pursue your passions and really do the things that you want to do. And now, you have to rely on that safety net of that consistent money coming in, and you're so much less likely to kind of leave that safety net and go all in with like what you want to do. So, I mean, I completely agree with that in the sense that, it is so, common that we hear people that they tell us it's like, take that risk when you're young, go all in, take the risk or lose the chance.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. So what are the best pieces? Like what have you guys have been doing this for obviously like a few years now? Like what advice have you thought is like the best advice? What are like the main takeaways that you yourself and your brother and your partner, Josh, like what do you guys really go, you know what? We're like, this is the common theme.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships are the most important thing in the world. People can take you places that money can't. And I say that because, I mean, if you look, but I'm also an advocate though. We were just having this conversation the other day about like networking advice and like what you tell other people. It's like, you have to find a way to provide value for people, because if not, if you're trying to, roll with certain circles or be in, certain groups of people, those people, like you can't kind of like leech off them. Like you want to have to find a way to provide value for them. Maybe it's through content or just kind of really developing a skill. But I would say absolutely number one, I mean, relationships are just the most important thing. And I think it starts with, because if I love the saying, it's like if you surround yourself with 5 people who are millionaires or 5 people who are driving a Ferrari, there's a very good chance that you're going to be that 6th person. But if you're surrounding yourself with 5 guys who are just fucking off in their bums, it's a good chance that you're going to be the 6th one. So I think that that's a very important one, and really just getting yourselves in the right room, surrounding yourself with the right people. That's been huge for us. And again, surrounding yourself with people who are good at what you're not good at. So, understanding like your strengths, but also your weaknesses. So that way, especially if you're trying to go into business, maybe you are just not good with accounting or finances. And it's like, okay, we need to get like a CFO or someone in here who really can know how to manage the money and allocate it to certain places where we can really fully benefit it and maximize the money that we're getting. So I think that that's super important. And then also, a big thing also is just like starting sooner. So a lot of people, they live in their heads with an idea, and it's always that mentality of, oh, you're going to keep letting it dwell, and we'll do it in 3 months. Well, then 3 months turns into 6, and then it turns into a year. But it's like, if you can just gradually build and just start. It's like the progress, it's going to be in the proof, it's going to be in the works. And if you just trust that process, like, it's just going to grow and develop, and it can turn into something that, it's just like with Hard Knockz. It's like, it just started with a couple of interviews, started to get traction, you just kept building. And then it just turned into like a really big like media conglomerate, to where it's like, we've been able to, meet some incredible people, open up some incredible opportunities to kind of go full time doing something that we really love. And eventually it just has opened like so many doors for us. And so, and then, I'm a big advocate of, like I said earlier, it's kind of like take the risk or lose the chance. It's that like third door policy. It's like, you go into a nightclub, you try to get in the front, it's VIP only, like you're not getting in, you go to the back door, you're not getting let in. It's like, you have to find a way, like that third door to get in. So it's like, it's almost kind of that mindset of like not taking no for an answer. It's just like, in sales, they say it takes 5 no's to get a yes. Problem is a lot of people, they get that first rejection, they're like, I can't do it. It's just like, it's overcoming that fear factor, and what other people have to say, kind of blocking all that noise out, and just, if there's a will, there's a way. If you have the drive and the passion for it, like, anything's possible.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yeah. And it's exactly the reason why I wanted you on the podcast. Cause like, so many people say they want to start something and no one actually takes the action. Like, you just have to decide. Like, my whole brand is Decide It's Your Turn. I was just interviewing a woman who started the Trader Joe's account, Trader Joe's, the grocery store. She has like the main Trader Joe's account, like the actual Trader Joe's account before Trader Joe's even did social media. And she's like, I just started. Like, I had no idea what it was going to do. And I'm sure, just like yourself and your brothers, like, you guys didn't really know what this was going to turn out to be, but you had to do something.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. In regards to the third door. So obviously, are you guys into self-development? Like, is this something that you like, are you into mindset work? Are you into like all of that kind of stuff?
I'd say a decent amount. Yeah. The one thing that I need to get a lot better at is reading, and that's something that like I'm trying to like work on. But as far as, I mean definitely, I'm very like big in on like fitness and stuff like that, and just consistency, and just like always like showing up, and just really trying to become like the best version of yourself, like physically and mentally. Something that's been really big this last year for me is kind of getting more serious about like my faith, and kind of really developing and establishing that like vertical line with God, because it's like, at the end of the day, like, that's the most important thing in the world. That's really the only thing that truly does matter.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We're so in alignment there. I always say like decision, faith, and action are the things. Like faith, I don't care if it's doorknob to you, it's God to me, but it makes the experience of life that much better, because you're going to get your ass kicked more times than you're going to win. And unless you have that faith to know, okay, like, this has to be happening for a reason. I mean, I've had so many situations, and I'm sure, you've had a few as well in your life, but like, there's been so many closed doors that when they're happening, you can't imagine that they're happening for a good reason. But whenever you're able to look back in life, you're like, oh, it makes so much sense now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing is, especially, I think the biggest realization for me was that when you really, think about the things that you want in life, whether it's money or people, relationships, all those things, at the end of the day, that's a dying dead road. That doesn't last forever. The only thing that really does is, that eternal life that you can kind of establish with God, like if you choose to have that relationship. And so that's why it's something that I've really been trying to develop, and just get better, and surround myself with people who are a lot more established in their faith and super like knowledgeable in certain aspects. And so I've kind of seeked out certain like mentors and and that regards to really help with my spiritual and like Christian life. And so that's been something that's been very helpful for me over the past like year or two.
Yeah, I find that interesting. Do you feel like a lot of the people that you interview that have had a lot of success in life, is there a common theme of some sort of belief there?
It's
Or do
interesting
people talk
because
about that?
it's interesting. We've definitely met a decent amount of people that have had just tremendous success, and there's a community that we're kind of involved in. It's like a venture capital community, and it's actually like Christian kind of like faith based.
Oh, cool.
They hold conferences, and we were actually at a conference this past week, and the CEO of Intel and a couple other like really big business owners were there. It was kind of like faith based, and so we have found that there are a lot of people that are kind of in alignment in regards to it's like they've had a tremendous amount of success with their companies and growing them and selling them, and there is that backbone of like faith and Christianity there. And that's something that like I really appreciate, because that is the thing is like you don't necessarily see a ton of big entrepreneurs necessarily like talk about their faith and relationship with God. There are those out there, but you don't see it too often. So it's really cool like whenever you can find that.
Is your brother and Josh, are the three of you, do you three have that commonality?
Yes,
Okay.
all three of us do.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. I think that'll make business a lot easier. Um, as far as interviews, what has been your favorite interview this far? And do you have like a dream interview, a person who you're just like, damn, I want them so bad?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I would say dream interview, just because I was a big fan of and I still am like a big fan of like MMA.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I would love to do Conor McGregor,
Oh,
because
sick.
not, I mean, one of the greatest fighters of all time, but he also the transition from being a fighter to owning like a whiskey company that I valued at like 600 million. So he's really gone to the top of the fight industry. He's got businesses, the August McGregor fashion line. So it's like he's in so many different, and I just think that his personality, his delivery would be amazing. Because he had that like came from nothing story.
Yeah.
Another one, again, controversial, but I just would love to talk. I mean, just the way he just thinks so differently. But I think Kanye West, again,
Oh,
another
I
example
agree.
of
Yeah.
I would love to just talk to him, and because the way he thinks is so differently, and I really again, someone else again came from nothing, went to the top of the music game, the Yeezy, he's a billionaire. I think he would be great as well. I'd love to do Gary Vee. I think would be amazing. I mean, there's definitely a lot. There's some actors like I love Mark Wahlberg. I think would be a good one. Um, and as far as like favorite interviews that we've done, I'm trying to think.
Like,
Let's
is there
see.
any that like really stood out to you? And by the way, I'm sure you'll get all those. I can't wait to watch your journey and see where it goes. And I'm sure you'll get every single one of those interviews. There's no doubt in my mind. Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What interview stuck out in your mind?
Mm, yeah, I'm thinking about this one real quick. It's because we interviewed over 1,000 people. I'm trying to think about one in particular.
One or two. I mean,
Or
like, is there anything like crazy that has happened? That is actually a question my husband and I were talking about this morning. Has there ever been anyone who, like, when you walk up to a person, a lot of times people think like, you put a microphone in their face, they are like, get the fuck away from me. They're like thinking you're crazy or something like that. Has there anyone
oh
who's ever been like,
yeah.
yeah, how's that been?
Yeah, oh yeah. So I actually there's actually one that did come to mind that I really did enjoy, and I
Okay.
think that you would like it as well. But I'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
But there's been numerous times we've gone up to people and they're like, dude, get that fucking camera out of my face, or they've
Exactly.
said something like that. And that's just, and some people just are terrified of like technology and social media. And to be fair, it's like, I mean, honestly, I don't even know how I would sometimes take it if like someone just randomly was recording me, came up to me with kind of like a mic and just like asked me questions. So it's funny because it's like we'll just go up, and a question that we'll ask is like, if you were to go back to either high school or college and you're having a conversation with your 20-year-old self, what's the best advice that you can tell your younger self? And it's some people would kind of just look at you and be like, don't talk to strangers, or they'll say
That's
something
pretty
like,
good.
they'll say like don't talk to strangers on the street or something like that. So it's kind of funny. But one in particular that honestly that stood out was, honestly, it's funny, but honestly I liked it a lot. Was I asked this guy named Nico Lagan, and he's was in sales, ended up leaving a sales job. He's actually from Canada, was visiting
I'm
Austin.
originally from Canada. Bet you didn't know that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah. I moved
and
from Canada to Arkansas.
Wow, that's incredible. And I asked him kind of like what advice he would tell, people coming out of college, starting out in the real world. And his advice was literally, don't be a bitch. Don't be a bitch. And what he was meaning by that was is that, he started to go into kind of like the history of like, prior to, World War II, you had boys and you had men. You went to either you went to war, your dad died, so you had to become like that man in the household, and you had to kind of like provide there. But he's talking about how like now in today's world, you have boys, and you have these things called teenagers, meaning it's like, got guys who kind of wake up when they're like 30 years old. They're like, what the fuck happened to my life? Because they spent it all wasting it. They were just really comfortable. And he was talking about how like that used to never be a thing until now. It's kind of like the modern world where you have all this like access to all the quick dopamine and all these different things. And so I thought that that was a really like fascinating interview. I'll have to send you the link if you haven't seen it before, but I'm sure your husband honestly probably really like it too. But it was a really solid interview. It was a longer one. I think the entire interview itself was like 13 or 15 minutes. So
Oh,
our
wow.
interviews they can range anywhere from 30 seconds, one question all the way up to 20, 30 minutes sometimes. It really just depends on the conversation, like the person, if they're receptive, if they're enjoying it, then we'll keep going. But yeah, that was a really good interview that we had done. And it was really just talking about, again, like the advice was don't be a bitch. It's like, it's like realize that nobody's coming to like save you. If you want the life,
Amen.
like you have to provide it. You have to, do it for yourself. It's your responsibility to kind of like take the charge. And that's, I think, a really big reason of why the three of us are very kind of driven and want to do big things early on, because it's all about like the lifestyle that you want to live. It's like I said, nobody's coming to do it for you. You have to put the work in and work for that life.
I just love, oh my God, I just love you guys. I just hope you all become billionaires. Everyone, like, because you guys are saving so much of what is happening right now. Like, there needs to be strong, successful males that say, you know what? I'm taking personal responsibility for my life. No one is coming to save me. There's no fucking handouts, nor should there be. I am willing to bust my ass and to create this life that I want, that is full of joy and purpose and money and abundance and happiness and all of the things. And I feel like a big portion of social media is telling you that you're the fucking problem. And I think that's the biggest problem we have right now. America, in my personal opinion, I'm originally from Canada, but I think America is literally the greatest country on the planet because you have the ability to do whatever you want if you want to work for it. And people are nowadays making you feel like you're wrong for wanting that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It infuriates me. It makes me so angry. So I'm so thankful that there's strong, masculine, hardworking, driven men who are just like, no, fuck that noise. Like, I'm going to work so hard. I'm going to create this life and I'm going to be okay with saying like, it takes a lot of work. You guys, like you said, you have the ability to pick up. We were supposed to do this interview before, and you're like, oh, we got an invite to Denver. How fucking cool is that? Like, within moments, you guys can be on a plane doing this next thing. And so many people, first of all, there's a lot of people that would never actually do it. They think about all the reasons why they couldn't. They think about all of the reasons why it doesn't work out. Like, you guys are just like, you're living in this time, this age, and whatever, where you guys literally are like, absolutely say yes to fucking every opportunity under the sun. That's what I did when I was in my golf career and I was making like $10,000 a day. If someone said jump, I said how fucking high, let's go, because I knew that that's what was going to get me to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick funny story. So,
Please.
this is kind of another interaction we had with someone, and we had asked someone to do an interview. He was just getting off a call, and this man in particular was, I'd say, I think he's actually, he's like 60. Yeah, I think he's around 60, but he was dressed in all this designer from head to toe. Like he had a Fendi jacket and some Dior or Gucci pants and Dior glasses, and just from luxury designer head to toe. He's 60 years old. I kid you not. And we asked him, he was like, "Hey, sir, want to know if we can do an interview with you?" And just kind of ask you a few questions. And this was very early on. This was a long time ago. And so he said, "Yeah, just give me just one moment, please." Okay. So we give him a minute or so. He's responding back to someone, and he turns around and he goes, "All right." So and he starts recording us. He starts like recording us, and he goes, "State your names," right? And so he states your names, where like where you're from and all this and that. It's like literally like giving us like a briefing, like he's trying to file like a police report, right? And so eventually he asked, like he's like let me see you guys like IDs, and we're like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like
Yeah.
we literally just wanted to like do like an interview with you. Like it's harmless. Like promise you, like we're not trying to do anything weird. Anyways, stops recording because like we would like pull out like the IDs or whatever, and ends up like walking away. So he walks away, and I'm like talking to my brother, and I was just like, dude, I don't like the fact that he just kind of like recorded us like that. Like, if anything, like we asked him if we could record him, but it's like, dude, I don't feel comfortable with him just like taking that video, asking for like all of our like information. So I kind of like ran after the guy. I was like, hey man, like you need to like delete that video off your phone. Like I asked you if I could like record you, and like you got a bunch of like personal information for me like on like video. And he's like, no, I technically like don't have to, whatever. And I was kind of explaining like what we were really trying to do, and breaking down like our channel. And I showed him it. He saw that we had a pretty big audience at the time. He's like, kind of was more like receptive to it, hesitant, wasn't doing the interview, but he goes, I'm looking for a like a bar or something like that. You guys want to like join me or whatever? And we were just like, this guy, like what the fuck? Why not, right? And again, it comes back to what we were saying, is like say yes to everything, because we could have easily been like hell no, dude, delete the video whenever you see it again. But we're like, and what started off as like a really weird interaction, and me like just being like, dude, what are you doing? And like wanted to like never see this guy again. We're just like, why not, right? Let's do it. So we start like walking around downtown Austin, like just the three of us, just my brother and I, and this man. Yeah, I'll get to who he is in a second. But we're walking around, and he's asking us a bunch of questions, asking us about our family life, where we're from, all this and that, what we're doing, what our parents do. And eventually, after kind of like 5 to 10 minutes just walking around, we finally get outside of the bar that this guy's just talking about. And he goes, all right, now you guys can like ask me questions. And so I asked him like one or two questions. And then like the third question I asked was like, so like what exactly like do you do? And he goes, I run the largest law firm in the state of Texas. And quickly, so the thing is if you're not from Texas, so you wouldn't know like who he is necessarily. But this guy, his name's Thomas J. Henry. If you're from Texas, you know who he is because he's on Super Bowl commercials here. He's like probably the biggest personal brand. Like you're not driving through a single city in Texas without seeing this guy on a billboard. And the reason why we didn't notice him at first is because you used to seeing this guy in suits and all that, and this guy is dressed in designer from head to toe, and we were just like just couldn't believe it. And my brother goes, "Wait a minute, are you Thomas J. Henry?" And he goes, "I am. You guys want to go have a drink?" So we end up literally for 2 hours, just the three of us, my brother and I, and Thomas J. Henry, who he owns the largest law firm in Texas, just chopping it up about life and talking about his story, kind of about us. And he was giving us some really good life advice and stuff like that. And so it was, that was, I had forgot about that, but that was honestly probably one of the crazier interactions that we had with someone just off the street. And where it started out is me like resenting the guy and getting like super mad, and he was mad at us and super cautious. And it ended up being, we connected with him on Instagram and everything after. And so we ran into him a couple other times, but it's just funny kind of like how that interaction kind of worked out. So that's why, again, it's like you said, you just always have to say yes, because there's been other times where like people have like invited us up to their apartments or stuff like that, and these people are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's like you just never say no when you get an opportunity and stuff like that. But a lot of people they be like no, but it's like you just again take the risk or lose the chance.
Absolutely. One of my mentors, I climbed Kilimanjaro probably 3 years ago for a charity with 12 successful, very, very successful people. I was honored to be a part of it. And I'm telling you, it was one of the greatest experiences ever, because there was 12 of us. So 11 other people who all were worth, millions of dollars. And I got so much time with each one of them. And one guy ended up being a very good friend and mentor of mine now. And he said that, there's always a way to yes. And you can always figure out a way to yes, kind of like the back doors, the third door thing that you were talking about. If you work hard enough in this world, there's always a way to yes. And you can always figure out how to be successful and be around the most successful people. And I just think what you're doing is truly incredible. Your parents should be super, super proud. Is it just you and your brother, Jack, or do you guys have other siblings?
It's just us two.
Oh, cool. What do your parents think about what you're doing?
at the beginning, because our parents, I'd say, are a lot more traditional,
Yeah.
in the sense that they're very. My dad was a West Point grad, went to the military academy. My mom went to she went to UT actually, so that was a big reason why my brother ended up going to UT, and then I followed in after. I was kind of like born and raised a Longhorn, but so at the beginning they were kind of just like really, it was just new to them, right? Because it's like you're making money through social media, and granted in the past my brother had a lot of success doing his consulting and running his business and working for client or working with clients, and I had success on social media as well. And then they started to like kind of like see results, and you can actually get paid to really monetize your passions and do what you love. And eventually, they've been very receptive to it. Now my mom is like the biggest like advocate. She just like the interview that she really wants us to get is she's like dying for us to get a Matthew McConaughey interview,
Oh my
because
God,
he's
that'd be
what
great in Austin. Yeah.
yeah. Well, he's exactly. He's based in
Yeah.
Austin. He
Yeah.
actually he's a professor at a class at UT. He teaches a
Yeah.
class called script. He teaches a class called it's script to screen. So it's kind of like a director, kind of like how you really bring like films to life. And so, but she loves what we do. She watches all of our videos, and my dad as well. He's I think become a lot more. As I said before, it was kind of unfamiliar to them at first, and they were a lot more traditional. My dad was kind of pushing for my brother to go get that high paying six-figure job in software, or in analytics or something like that in tech. But he's just I think a lot more now receptive to, because it's, again, you show them results that you do what you do, and that you really there's like good intentions behind it, and it's like they've definitely became a lot more like supportive of it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I interviewed a guy, very controversial, probably the most controversial interview I've ever done. He got banned from sports gambling. His name is Vegas Dave. He's got hundreds of millions of followers and all the things, but he's hardcore into gambling. A lot of people hate him, but all of that to be said, he loves his parents more than anything. In one breath, he said, I would like lay down, like the reason why he works is to buy his parents a house, loves his parents. And then in the next breath, he said, sometimes you just have to do the opposite of what your parents want you to do, because your parents just want you to be safe and your parents want you to be happy, but your parents don't know how to make you happy and how to make you safe. And I'll be honest, when I first started doing the things that I was doing, I mean, my parents didn't get it. It really, until I was able to be like, oh yeah, here's my bank account, here's what I do, and this is a quote unquote real job. It's hard to explain. And so I commend you for doing the thing that's kind of a little bit off color. I mean, I do feel like for your demographic now, like having an online presence or an online based business, I think is much more common, but I totally commend you for doing the thing that like doesn't feel like quote unquote the right path, but it's following something that you love, and you guys are working hard and you're making a difference, and your why behind it, I think, is like the reason why it's gonna succeed. I mean, you guys truly did it. Like you said, you did it to actually help the younger generation understand what it takes to be successful when a lot of people don't have that mentorship. So it's so cool to get to talk to you. I mean, I hope you guys just like absolutely crush the rest of your lives. I am a huge fan. I'll be watching for a long time. I always ask everyone one last question, and that is, if what was the best decision that you've ever made? At the time, it may have not been the best decision, but what do you really feel like is the best decision you've ever made?
The best decision was definitely moving to Austin. And the reason why I say that is because like I said, I'm a big advocate and believer that like of just like surrounding yourself with the right people. Whereas, when we were living in DC, people were very close-minded. The thought of starting your own media channel or starting your own business, you had a lot of people. And you said something that I really liked in kind of that previous segment a little bit, was that about like it's very easy to kind of like take advice from people. Maybe it's your family or parents or teachers or friends, and they may kind of try to direct you in one path. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that like you're living your life for you. Your parents aren't going to be here forever. Those friends in your life, they're not going to be in your life forever. So it's like you have to ultimately do like what's going to make you feel fulfilled and happy and all those things. And so really, when getting out of DC, first of all, not only did I move to a city where I only knew one person, but you're surrounding yourself with people that are, it's very collaborative. People are so willing to provide value for you. And again, you got out of that like closed-minded, where the epitome of success for all those people in DC, for 90% of them, is that six-figure government contracting job. And it's like, when you get to an environment where people are striving for just better and better things, and there's so much money and opportunity just like investing and pouring into the city, it's like that was easily the best decision I made. I wouldn't say necessarily coming to college, but making that move from DC, like the DC area to Austin, that is really what allowed us to take off and connect with the best people that we could, and really elevate ourselves just through content and honestly just every aspect of our life.
That is amazing. Yeah. I came from a very middle class family, but I always worked at private country clubs. And then when I started playing professional golf, I was around very successful people because I was hired to play golf with executives, like very, very well known, multi 7-figure, 8-figure business executives. And I was always around wealthy people. And I will say, you putting yourself in close proximity with people who have an unlimited amount of money is one of the best things that you can possibly do, because at the age of 20, like, fuck you, wealth exists. And a lot of people don't understand that there is so much money in this world, and it's your job to go get it. Like, if you're a really good human doing something good in this world, you can make so much money. So I think it's one of the coolest things that you're just surrounded by unlimited wealth. And now you understand it's real. Staying in DC, making 6 figures, like, a lot of people think a couple $100,000 a year is a lot of money. Now you're like, oh my God, that's pocket change.
Yeah, crazy, right? Crazy.
So crazy. Well, James, I'm so grateful. Where do everyone find you? How do they, I mean, I'm sure they know, but tell us all the platforms, all the things.
Yeah, if you just look up the School of Hard Knockz on Instagram, it's with a Z, but everything else is just the School of Hard Knockz. You can find us TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as well. We're going super heavily into like longer form content on YouTube. So definitely check us out there. We've been growing really fast over the last few weeks. And then also like my personals, if you just look up James Dumoulin on TikTok and Real James Dumoulin on Instagram, you'll find me there. So Christina, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed our conversation.
James, absolutely. I'm wishing you guys the best of luck.